Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5 Tips and Tricks for Careers in Athletics. I'm your host, Dr. Morey Mossovitz, with my all-time most wonderful, most favorite co-host, Jen Albanese. Hey, Jen.
Hello, sir. You had to fix your tie right before we started. It looks so nice.
Get a little tight
You're
up there.
so formal, and I'm in like a sweatshirt. So it's
we're doing a yin and yang day today.
There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast.
I know. It's very exciting. We have Caitlyn in today.
I know.
Who is one of your interns. Again, we're coming back to the intern well of Jen, but doing
they do
amazing
so well.
things.
They do so well. She's at ESPN now and has some great advice and experience, I'm sure, to impart on all of our listeners. So it'll be a good conversation.
And doing really interesting things too, because social activism and getting involved with the kind of philanthropic side of ESPN and how they support other organizations, and then also youth sports and being an advocate for youth sports in this country, which is so important just for our society. So really doing cool things, connecting to media and sports and ESPN.
Yeah, really interesting. So
well, talking about youth, your niece swallowed her tooth tonight, and it was a raging problem for her. There was a lot of questions related to it. One is she going to have an illness after it? Like, is it okay?
So how did she swallow? Explain how she swallowed the tooth.
There was some eating going on. All of a sudden I saw panic. She runs to the bathroom, and then I think she figures out that she had already swallowed the tooth.
Oh, was she trying to spit it out?
Yeah, she was trying to see if she could get it back out. And I said, no, it's okay. Like, don't worry about it. Her mother was not available. There was a lot of questions for me about what's going to happen to her. She is my more anxious child. The other one probably wouldn't have cared. What's going to happen with the tooth fairy? What's going to happen to the tooth, which I then had to explain the process of how it works through her body and say it's going to come out.
Wow, that went deep into conversations.
It's Lucy. So we're going all the way in so that we can get rid of any anxiety left. And then we're just going to let it go, and it's going to make its way into the ether of the world. So we are okay. We left the tooth fairy a very detailed note about the situation. There was a lot of apologizing in it, which I thought was maybe too much, but she felt that it was necessary. I'm so sorry that I swallowed this tooth. It was very upsetting.
Oh my God. I love her so much. I just, and the way these girls lose teeth, it couldn't be the more unique ways. Like Natalie was at school walking in the hallway, and the nurse texts us and says that her tooth popped out. So she had that. Then she was at lacrosse, and she bit down on her mouth guard, and it popped out. And she comes over and gushing blood. Then she drops the tooth in the grass. I'm digging through the grass to find the tooth. I'm like, can't we just do it where we used to, when I was a kid, we just pulled out our tooth.
And the boys on the other side have hardly lost any teeth.
No, well, they're still a little 5 years old.
Lucy started at that point. I felt
Lucy was early. See, Natalie was not, and then she's rapid fire with these teeth.
I was waiting for Graham. It's going to be interesting because he's not going to care. He's just going to pull them out on his own. I'm not worried about that. And probably Michael might pull Graham's teeth out, and Graham might pull Michael's teeth out. That's kind of what we got going right now.
I was going to say they might have a pact. Hey, buddy, pull my tooth out. I'll make some money.
Yeah, they'll try and scam us on everything, but
God, these kids.
We'll go from there, and we'll have Caitlyn on after these messages.
Are you a loyal 5 Tips and Tricks podcast listener? If not, now is the time to start. Get all your info and fun content on the podcast by following us on all our social channels at @AthCareerPod. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast is a part of Athletic Career Consulting. Make sure to reach out to us. The one-stop shop for everything is our website, www.athcareer.com. Remember, follow and like us on @AthCareerPod, rate and review us, and get all your info at www.athcareer.com. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Morey, would you like to introduce our guest today?
Our next guest began her sports career as a marketing intern for Syracuse Athletics while completing her undergrad at SU. From there, she built her communications foundation working with the USA Diving, UMass Amherst Athletics, and the New York Jets, where she went on to represent the NFL on staff at the Super Bowl for, I believe it's number 11. No, that can't be
No.
right. 41, L1.
There you go.
She then joined ESPN, where over 7+ years, she has collaborated across ESPN and the Walt Disney Company to lead national campaigns focused on youth sports, cancer research, foundations, and wish-granting initiatives. Today, as a specialist at ESPN's corporate citizenship, she leads communications and social media for social impact work, including ESPN youth sports movements and Taking Back Sports. In 2024, she added an MBA from the University of Massachusetts Amherst to her resume, and she is currently called Connecticut home. Her love of sports runs deep, forged on countless Sundays, cheering on her favorite teams with family, and on long car rides listening to ESPN Radio with her mother, who for many years had her convinced that the car only played that. So no music. With that,
no music.
We welcome Caitlyn Cohn. Welcome.
Hi.
Hey, it's so good to see you guys.
I know. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
One of my other all-time favorites. I'm so excited. Caitlyn, I'm so proud of you. You're doing so great.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, when you guys asked me to come on, it was an automatic yes. I owe so much to you, especially Jen, like, you know, getting my career started. I remember, I think my interview was in that little closet.
Yep. Everybody remembers the closet.
Yeah,
closet.
and literally my interview was like packing t-shirts. And it's so crazy to see like the great success you and Morey are having at SU, and it's so wild to see how much, you know, has changed over the years at SU, but also great to see like all the continued success you guys are having.
Well, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
We love seeing your success. I mean, what you have gotten into and your engagement in sports is so awesome. Just doing a lot of things around promotion of youth and sports and the media, and being at such a big company. It's awesome. You know, ESPN is such a thriving hub for sports. So it's great to see you taking off and doing so well.
We're so proud. Like I said, so proud. So proud.
Thank you. Thank you.
So with all this experience you've built up, we'd love you to share a tip or trick with our listeners.
Absolutely. So I was thinking about coming the lens of when I was interning for you guys back in the day. And, you know, at SU, I think they give you so many resources and platforms, as many universities do, but there's nothing like hitting the reality of the real world, right? So I think one of the biggest takeaways I had early on in my career in college, I heard professors and people always talk about networking. I'm really anti the word networking. I think it's more about building relationships, because to me, networking sounds like I'm just adding you to my collection of people on LinkedIn and I'm never going to talk to you again, or I'm just collecting you like baseball cards, right? And you know, I have people that I have reached out to over the years that remember me because I've built those relationships over time, or I've checked in with them. I also can say there were people I met with early on in my career where I thought because they were in my network, that meant they could advocate for me. But lo and behold, and I understand this now, having been 10 years out of Syracuse, you talk to people all the time. I can't necessarily remember every single conversation I've had as much as I would love to. I may not be able to tell you exactly every detail or, you know, attribute and contribution a person has done if I am only talking to you like once or twice. It's really hard to do that. And, you know, we're all busy, right? So keeping that in mind. So I think when you maintain a relationship, it's someone that, you know, get to know them on a personal level as well as a professional level, right? It's knowing, you know, I remember, Jen, we would be like, okay, let's talk about keeping up with the Kardashians. And then 5 minutes later, it'll be like, all right, we really need to like start planning for this football game on Saturday and do run of show, right? So, you know, it's okay to get to know people, but then get to business. It also builds familiarity and trust, right? Like, I want to know, you know, down the road, if I'm hiring someone, can I work with them 8 hours a day? Do I want to spend 8 hours a day with someone, right? Is this someone that I can trust, that if I need to put something last minute on them, that I know from their experience they can get it done? Is this someone I'm familiar with, that I know kind of the work that they're doing behind the scenes or what they're doing to kind of advocate for themselves? And so I think that's really important, you know, and sometimes building those relationships, it may not even open up your first job, but you don't know where that may lead. early on in my career, when I was struggling to kind of find that first full-time job and I had all these like freelance and side gigs, I joined the SU alumni network for Western Mass, Northern Connecticut, where I grew up. And the funny thing is, I'm 22, 23, thinking about how I don't want to spend my Saturday drinking beer with a bunch of 40-something-year-olds, right? Like you're in this younger mindset. But I would go, and I got to know them on a personal level, and I bonded watching Syracuse games with these folks. And then a few jobs later, when an opportunity at ESPN opened up, someone that happened to be working at ESPN was able to refer me because he got to know me and was able to speak highly of me, knew the hiring manager, and was able to get my information up front. But I also had a deep relationship with this person at that point where they didn't feel used either. Exactly. And that's really important because we don't want to feel like we're a pawn.
Yeah.
And so I think too, like, learn from people as you maintain these relationships, right? Like one of my good friends, she works in engineering. We have nothing in common professionally, nothing. But we deal with office politics, right? And I've learned from her how she's navigated some uncomfortable conversations, or she's called me to ask how I've dealt with some conflict, because we're all human, right? So I think as you maintain relationships and not collect people, I think it helps you. And some of those people end up becoming what you may consider like a board of directors, your personal board of directors, right? Where they can say like, hey, I know the work you put in. I think you're overqualified. I think you need to start looking. That's a conversation I had with a friend last week that I used to work with, and some struggles that she's kind of dealing with, right? I've had people come to me and say, I noticed your tone was a little off in this meeting. Are you okay? Maybe next time approach it from this angle. You learn from that. But I also trust it because I've built those relationships and maintained. And sometimes those people aren't the people you see or talk with or work with on a daily basis, but they're people I could go 6 months without talking to, and then suddenly like, hey, I need to pick your brain on something, and know that that's not going to go anywhere. So I really think maintaining those relationships are so important. And I tell everyone, like, whether it's sports or down the road, if you choose to no longer do sports, relationships are the main focal point of the sports industry. It's, how you get things done. It's how you work across the board. Like marketing works with sponsorship with ticket sales, PR, how do you get the message out, right? You think of it from a college athletics standpoint. I work at ESPN, which is owned by the Walt Disney Company. So for me, I have to work closely, even though I do corporate social responsibility. That's not just fundraising for V Week or SB's Week for cancer research, right? I'm talking to people at Disney Advertising Sales about how do you get sponsors to support the dollar, right? And having those trusted relationships where someone from sales can say, I don't really understand what the sponsor is asking from a fundraising lens. Can you clarify that for me? Or saying, I'm not really sure if that's the right brand you want to associate, because they look out for your best interest.
Right. I love that. I don't collect them like baseball cards. Like that is such a good, like, example, and so simple to understand that, you can have 100 baseball cards, but if you don't know any of the players that you have in your hand, that they're never going to be able to help you. There's no worth in it.
I was going to say there's no value in it because you don't know what you have to, what there's to offer. I do like the board example too, about having like a group of people to provide feedback to, and, don't get a sounding board of one, get a group of people that you trust around. So that's awesome. Definitely
so good.
On a high with our first one.
Yes, that was such a good one.
Let's keep going. What do you got for your second?
Yeah, so no pressure, I guess, right?
So
I set the bar high. I always try to. So the next one I always say is adaptability. You have to prepare to pivot, right? Whether it's expected or unexpected. I know COVID is such like the cliche example these days of the unexpected, right? And how do you pivot on the fly? But as we know, there's also changes in leadership, right? Whether that's new CEO, Disney just announced a new CEO 2 months ago, right? I know SU just announced both a new president and a new athletic director.
Yep.
Sometimes you get a new boss, right? And some of this is planned and well known, and sometimes it's sudden. For us, we just had layoffs at our company a few weeks ago. So I'm pivoting on the fly because while I may not be taking on more responsibilities right now, I also know it's some of the projects I was working cross-functionally are going to change, but I still have to keep that momentum going. So whether it's finding new people to work with or finding go rounds, right? Or that money that I thought I had is no longer there. So how do I solve for that? Right? Sometimes it's planning ahead because things happen, right? Someone calls out sick, that happens. I think sometimes we see it that a project suddenly gets dumped on your coworker. So you're taking on a bigger project because their priority has shifted. And that's a very simple thing, but it happens a lot more than you expect. We also know strategies change, right? And it can be so easy to dwell. You spend so much time and energy on a project and then suddenly it gets scrapped, or the direction you think that's going to happen, suddenly you're going a completely different way and you don't agree with it. And your feelings are your feelings and they're valid and you can dwell, but you also got to get to that starting line pretty quickly and get moving on the next thing. And, when you work in sports have become very 24/7. I work in media, so it's very 24/7, but college athletics for you guys, you don't stop, right? Like you get 2 months off, 2.5 months, but during that time you're planning for the season ahead.
Yeah.
Right. So I think as you think about adaptability, right, we know that come December, right, is going to be V week. So there's certain things I'm thinking about like long term that I start to kind of plan ahead on. But there's certain things that I know like next week, I don't know what's going to happen. So I can plan ahead on control what I can control. And then that way, if I have some social post planned and copy ready to go, that's a quick post for the ESPN Citizenship handles. Feel free to follow us, guys.
Okay.
Next.
Yeah.
But
give them the shout outs. We'll follow. Let's go. Everybody follow.
Thank you. My own personal plug. But like I can prep for that, but I could come in Monday and someone say like, hey, we can't promote that now.
Yeah.
So do you have any other posts that you're planning to put out this week? And so it's easy to say, but like sometimes it can frazzle you. So you just have to be ready.
You definitely in this industry have to be ready to pivot and be like kind of on your toes at all times. I think that's across any part of it. And I think that's a great like thing for people to keep example of. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't prepare though. I think that's the part I think you really hammered home is that I think some people are like, well, athletics is just an on the fly type of thing, or you can figure it out last minute. The reality is that's the opposite, because the more you prepare and you get rid of it, when you do have those parts of it that you have to pivot, you don't have to worry about those other things that you've prepped for. So, prep your whole situation and know that you're going to deal with one or two of these things. I think that's a great example of, well, I've gotten all these other posts going. I have things, I have tools in my toolbox to make things work. And I think there oftentimes can be a misconception of athletics and that it's maybe informal and that you can just do these things on the fly. And the reality, those people that are the most professional have the ability to pivot because they're prepared.
Yeah. Morey, as you were just saying that, I kind of brought back a memory of, I don't remember exactly what went wrong, but it was a football game. And I remember, Jen, you were in your headset running around, panic about something. And I was with a veteran. And I think we had to change something with it. And then my quick solve was like, oh, well, he can be part of the tunnel as the team runs out and just stand and cheer. And even though the veteran, I think, had to wait a little bit longer for his on-field moment, for him, he was happy because he got to like high five some players as they were running out. And even like sometimes you just think of things on the fly. And then other times, you got to keep cool too and just pretend things are okay, even if it feels like a fire drill.
But you were prepared. You knew the way that the game was produced. You knew things that you could do so that you could go to a toolbox and be able to make those things happen. And I think that's some of the things, especially young people forget, is like, if you're not built up those skills and you haven't prepared for what's going on throughout, it doesn't give you the opportunity for success at the end.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So good.
Awesome.
Another good
Okay.
one. Another good one.
Number three, right?
Yeah. Yes. So number 3, and this is a real personal one for me. It's creating opportunities when opportunities are limited, right? I think sports is a very competitive industry to get into. It's also, unfortunately, some internships pay at a very minimum wage. Others don't even pay you, right? And you have to be willing. And even, for me, I was told I had to have all these post-grad internships. And my parents said, you have 1 year. We'll support you 1 year. After that, financially, you're on your own. And in my situation, I was told, it's good to have like 2 or 3 years. That's what a lot of people in PR were doing at that point that wanted. And at that time, I thought I want to be like the head of comms for the NFL, and that I needed all this like team PR experience. And because everyone else wants that, you're competing with everyone, right? And some feel obligated to give the internship to those that haven't had that type of internship before. Some of it's just who the relationships, right?
Yeah.
And some of it is also just like financially, living in Los Angeles on $15 an hour may not be realistic if you don't have that support, right? So in my journey, I kind of started creating experiences while living at home. I was substitute teaching by day at my local high school, living with my parents. At night, I was freelancing for like the Big East Conference, like cutting video for them. I started volunteering my time at UMass Athletics, just working games, similar to what I was doing before at SU, and kind of taking some of those skills, but more of a PR lens at that point, and just trying to build those relationships and, meet more people, and also kind of get help along the way of maybe some skills that I felt were a little short on my side and where I could adapt and be better, right? Because, skills, right now we know that like video editing is huge, right? And you need to understand social media beyond just like your personal usage, right? And even digital is changing. Short form video has become more popular over the past couple of years compared to 3-4 years ago where 30 seconds or less. So you have to constantly adapt, but also like build those skills, right? So for me, I used a year of where I was really just trying to pick up skill and volunteer my time or the minimum wage. I did crash a few couches along the way. And thankfully I had really great friends that allowed me to do that and support. And like in exchange, I would pay for dinner or something. Right. So I think, just being able to create opportunities. And I remember saying this to people during COVID. I say it to people now. If those internships don't work out, that's okay. There's a lot of nonprofits out there that need help, right? So that's a great way to hone in your craft. If you want to get into graphics and edit, you want to create video, that's a great place to start because they're just looking for help and you're going to get free reign on, other than maybe like nothing that's inappropriate should be posted, but like they're going to really encourage you to kind of just do what you do because they just don't have the bandwidth for that. For some people it's grad school. For me, I decided a couple years ago during COVID to go back and get my MBA. It was something I was interested in at that point. But I also recognized I was working from home and, I was just 10 months into my role at ESPN when COVID happened. And I was trying to just stay afloat of, I love what I do. I love my job. I love the place I work. It's a great company. I'm getting a little bit of visibility, but I'm not sitting in certain rooms that I expected to be sitting in by now because people aren't really remembering that I'm here because they're used to who they're engaging with online, right? They're not passing by me in the hallway or seeing me in the kitchenette. So for me, getting my MBA was really important because it taught me some of the business acumen and start thinking outside of the box of like, how do companies think? Especially for me, I work in corporate America. It's media, but we're owned by the Walt Disney Company. So kind of thinking also, how does that apply, right? I work with Disney a lot now. For me, it's also, I need to understand their business, knowing sports is different from parks, right? From studio.
Right. Yeah.
But I have to be able to translate some of that to them in a way that makes sense. Yeah. And so those opportunities actually allowed me to work closely with Disney and be able to do that. And now I'm actually helping my colleagues at ESPN that are starting to work more closely with Disney of how to understand those processes. So by like creating those opportunities, you know, other opportunities are going to come your way because people recognize you're putting in the work, you're putting in the extra hours, and it's not all glamorous. I have spent many late nights and early mornings, like working on things, right? Sometimes you want to pull your hair out and ask, why am I doing this? You know, there are times too, it feels like it's not going to go your way. And I think, unfortunately, everyone sells you on like, oh, if you just work so hard, you'll get there, and put in all these hours. But we also know it's not realistic for everyone of just like, you can intern for 3 years post-grad and live on minimum wage. We know that's not realistic. And I think by putting in the work and just finding other avenues to get you there, it is still possible.
Yeah. Awesome. I love the opportunities one. And I think that's really key for students that are listening. Like if you're at a college, there's an athletic department there. You should be volunteering. You should be getting that experience. And Caitlyn, you're such a good example of when you were at Syracuse, you came and worked in the athletic department. And I think even sometimes Syracuse students are like, oh, I don't want to work at the Syracuse Athletic Department. I want to go other places. I want to travel. And that's great too, but you have something in your own backyard, even if you're home in the summertime and there's a college in your area or a minor league baseball team or a hockey team or anything like that. Like those are all opportunities where it might not be exactly where you want to be, but you're going to learn from it and you're going to hone your craft, like you said. Like a nonprofit, that's not right in sports, but you're going to hone your craft if you want to learn about graphics and if you want to learn about PR and all that kind of stuff. So that's just, you said that so well. Thank you. Caitlyn, these just get better and better.
Awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
all right. Number 4.
Number 4.
Yes.
You have to evolve, right? You know, I talked about, you know, you have to create opportunity, but you also have to evolve. AI, you know, that's the reality. That's where everything is heading. I saw over the weekend some university student population booed a woman for talking about AI on stage. And it's like, yeah, that sucks. But at the same time, that's the reality. So you can embrace it and learn from it and get on board, or you can struggle and either not find a job or not embrace it and you're out of a job in 2 years. And, you know, we all joke like, oh, AI is going to take over. We're all going to lose our jobs and it's going to be the end of the world. But there's benefits to AI, right? It can help you with your job. Like I use it a lot for my role of, can you edit the copy I have? Or I'm submitting an award nomination. I have to be under word count. What can I take out? Right? Like it creates efficiencies. But also now there are tools that can help you with video editing, right? There are ways of like graphics, or even, you know, I have an event next week and I need a run of show. This is what I'm thinking, you know, help me craft together, you know, run of show with specific details of things I need to focus on based on the information. And you will teach that AI tool over time, right? And it's going to get to know you. But it's important to embrace it. I know right now we're in this kind of unknown of, you know, there are some good. We also hear a lot of negative headlines. But to me, it's kind of like social media 20 years ago of, you know, we have to embrace it. It's going to be part of the future. We can't run from it. I think like anything else, we need to learn and set those boundaries of how to make sure that, you know, we are being very cautious and compliant and make sure that people are set up for success. You know, I think it's also important to, as you evolve, learn from your mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, right?
We all do. We all make mistakes.
It happens, right? You miss an email, right? You forget to respond, or you forgot to pass on something when you were out, right? Like things happen and sometimes you make bigger mistakes. That's how you learn, right? It's how you learn to pay attention to certain details. It's also, it teaches you maybe that's an area you weren't aware of that you needed to focus on and you're better prepared for next time. I think also like knowing the business priorities, right? And then learning from those business priorities and then like anticipating how to best serve. So for me, like, I know ESPN has our first Super Bowl broadcast this upcoming NFL season. We're all super excited. So I'm not just sitting here like waiting for a project. I just had a conversation with my manager yesterday of like, you know, what can we do from a corporate social responsibility lens and show up at the Super Bowl and what makes sense. And, you know, there's been stuff that we've been ideating for a long time, but I'm doing it from more so my day-to-day job of like comms and social media of how can we show up in that realm. And I have some ideas and we've been discussing, you know, what does that look like, but also anticipating, you know, for me, the parent company need as well, right? So it's, you know, building that bridge so that they understand why this is so significant as well. You know, even we think about like, because of Road to Super Bowl, flag football, it's a fast growing sport, especially in girls, right? And like for me, my day job is, the Olympics as well, LA 28. You know, a big component of my job is working in a lot in youth sports and trying to get kids back to playing sports because only 38% of kids are regularly playing sports. And, you know, you think about today, that's a very low number. But
I was going to say, that's insanely low.
It's very low. But
all of our children play sports, though.
I know. It's like crazy. I feel like everyone I know, their kids are playing. But what happens is the number one reason they're quitting is because they're not having fun.
Right.
And you think about it, okay, so if they're quitting sports 20 years from now, they're not going to be sports fans. So what does that mean? It means they're not tuning in to watch games, right? They're not buying tickets to go to Syracuse basketball games, right? You know, they're not buying your shirts. They're not showing up to marketing events and fan rallies, right? Where you at least build that investment over time by creating fandom. So it's also finding those ways, you know, through like different storytelling for us, like through, you know, the road to the Super Bowl of like, how do you get kids to get playing? So I think like as you evolve too, you know, it's also understanding like the acumen and then how do you tie your role back into like the business goals. And that's always important. And it can be hard, right? To, especially early on, like you're learning the job and then you're trying to learn like, what is it that my manager needs to do on a day to day? But it will come a point where you're like, okay, I understand my job. I understand like my responsibilities. Now I need to learn how to like anticipate the needs of maybe my team or my leaders, right? And so it does come, but it's also important, like as you think about these things, like read the news. It's a great, I mean, not all things are negative, right? Like even if you just want to read about like Sports Business Journal or Synopsis Sports or Front Office Sports, like those are great ways to just learn what to anticipate so that you are aligned with those business priorities.
Awesome.
I love that. Evolving is so important. It's key. It keeps you relevant and keeps you involved in everything. So I love that. So good, Caitlyn.
Well, we're getting to the big one. Okay, Jen.
Okay. All right. So what do you know now that you wish you knew then? So what do you know now at this point in your career that you wish you knew when you first started?
Oh gosh, I've been thinking long and hard about, you know, the different things I wish I knew when I was 22 or 23. And I've kind of landed on two. And I'll tie them both together. One, you're not special. Everyone, you know, and I'll be the first to say when I graduated, I thought I was on top of the world. I thought it was the greatest thing going, you know, like, I mean, looking back, I was humbled very quick and rightfully so. But I think like a lot of people, and it's not everyone, but I think, you know, maybe it's part of like, you know, the stereotypical, like everyone gets a trophy now. The real world is hard, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're not special just because you were really good at your internship at Syracuse Athletics and you sacrificed, which I was. I was really good, and I sacrificed going to every party, to tailgate party, to go to work the game. That doesn't mean you're special because there's a Caitlyn Cohn at every single school trying to now go on to sports, right? Now I'm competing with those people, not my peers that I went to college with for 4 years. And because of that, I think I learned early on that, you know, no matter where you go, you have to stand out, right? Like you have to stand out. You have to keep showing up. You have to stand out. Like you get out of college, you're starting at the bottom again. You're not special. Right. Like, you're still going to continue to do the work no one wants to do. You're still going to be like folding t-shirts and maybe you're throwing them in the stands. I'm still not good at throwing t-shirts 10 years later. And I've had many opportunities to throw shirts at events and I'm still terrible. Right. But, you know, you have to start somewhere. Right. And like with that also means you have to build trust with people as well to show that you're going to grow and that you're willing to take on. But at the same time, you have to advocate for yourself along the way. And that's something I think I'm still learning and something I've really started to really learn in the past couple of years in my role of you are lucky if you have people that look out for you. And I do. I have a wonderful manager that has advocated hard for me and pushed for me to get promoted at a time when it was really difficult to do that. I have friends that have advocated for me at work to make sure that people knew who I was in the rooms I weren't in. Yeah. You know, I've had people like during COVID, like ask me, do I want to join a Zoom meeting? Because it was just a great opportunity to learn. And I'm fortunate in that. And early on, I thought I was just like, oh, that's great. I have people that are looking out for me. But you also have to look out for yourself. And you have to learn to pick and choose when to advocate for yourself and pick those battles appropriately. But you do have to stand up for yourself at times and say, no, like I am putting in this work. And I think especially as women, that's even harder 100%. To do. You know, I'm very opinionated. My executive could tell you, like, I'm in any meeting, I'm going to tell it to you straight what my opinion is. There's going to be no hard feelings behind it. I'm just going to tell you how I see it. But that on the flip side, I don't always speak up about myself. Mm-hmm. And I've had to learn, like, I have to speak about my brand, right? Yeah. Like, I have to say, you know, like I've started saying meetings, like, not just we're doing X, Y, Z, talk about how that ties back to the business. Mm-hmm. Or last month, year over year, like, grew our Instagram views by like 2,000% or whatever that number is. Like, you have to like kind of advocate for yourself. And that's hard for someone that like me, I grew up where my parents were very quick to humble you. So it's really, really hard to do that. You're not
special. You're not special.
And like, I guess that goes back to my other point of you're not special, right? So it's like finding that balance of you're not special, but you do have to advocate for yourself, but learn at the right moment of when that is. Or, you know, as you advocate too, like, I don't understand why I didn't get the job. Can someone please explain, you know, like what I'm missing? Yeah. You know, don't be afraid to ask those hard questions. Yeah. Like, that's the only way you're going to learn.
It takes that all takes so much practice like that. But it's so good to identify that early on in your career. That way you can work at it and watch how other people do it and model it after that. That's so good. I really feel like this episode should be titled "You're Not Special."
Please,
Caitlyn,
please title it.
You are so special. Like, you couldn't
Thank
be
you.
more special. So
thank you.
Everybody else, you're not special. But
yeah. You know, people, please learn. You're not special.
You're not.
You're
special.
Never gonna be special.
And I mean, you're not going to be special until you appropriately advocate for yourself and get other people to advocate for you. That's at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Wrap it all back up.
I love that. Oh, so good.
It goes back to the first tip. It's all about relationships. So that's what it all comes back around. Well,
I love it.
Caitlyn, thank you so much. We appreciate all that you did. This has been great.
Oh my gosh, so many good tips, so much good advice. And like I said, so happy to see you and so proud of all that you're doing. But thanks everybody for listening. Make sure you're following us on all our social channels at AthCareerPod and liking and sharing and listening on all the podcast platforms and rating and reviewing. And Caitlyn knows all the social stuff, but yes, all of those things. And new episodes drop every Tuesday. So thanks everybody. And thank you, Caitlyn.
Bye.
No, thank you guys. Bye.
If you like the 5 Tips and Tricks podcast, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can rate and review us, including questions that may be answered on future episodes. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast for careers in athletics is part of Athletic Career Consulting. Check us out at www.athcareer.com. Don't forget to follow and like us on your top social media platforms.